What's up YouTube? Anything Billy here. Welcome back to the channel. On today's video, we're going to be replacing front brakes, rotors, and rear brakes on a 2007 Honda Accord. So let's get started. Okay, so as you can see, I have already took this one apart. I've got the caliper up here, rotor off, and the brakes and everything. So we're going to go on to the driver's side. I'm going to show you how I got to this point. Alright, so the first thing that I do before I start a brake job is I take the cap off the brake reservoir and I put a rag over it. That way when I push in the calipers, so the air can come up through the top of the brake reservoir. First thing you do is take the wheel off. You have to take the lug nuts, which are 19mm. The lug nut key to take off these special lug nuts. So tools you will need to take this apart and replace it. You will need a 12mm socket, a 17mm socket. Always got to have a hammer, and a caliper compression tool, and a flashlight, and lubrication for the caliper pins, caliper slides, whichever you prefer to call them. First off, the 12mm you want to put on the caliper bolt slides, whichever you want to call them. Normally, to save my hands as hammers, I take a hammer, give it a little tappy-roo till it breaks loose. Same thing to the bottom. A little tappy-roo there. I know I'm probably going to get bashed in the comments, but that's okay. You just unscrew them like so. We'll take the two 12mm bolts loose and take them out. Now we can remove the caliper. Turn the caliper over. Never let the caliper dangle, because you will stretch the brake line, which in turn could collapse the inside, or it could make it break. So now you take the brake pads out. As you can see, these are pretty thin. This is the reason why we're changing the rotor on this side, is because it's metal to metal. Right. Next thing you want to do is get your 17mm, and you want to take the caliper bracket off. Like I said, use a hammer, not your hands. Loud noise. A lot of times if these are left on if these are still on from the factory, I know Chevrolet's bad for it, they'll put Loctite on them. That's why they're so tight. And you just unscrew them. Sometimes they're a pain in the butt to get out, sometimes they're not. Okay. Take the bracket off, set it down. Now next, you gotta take the rotor off. As you can see, it's old and rusty. What you do, take the hammer again. Make sure you hold on to the caliper so it don't fall, and you hit it until it comes loose. There's the rotor off. Next is you got to get the piston pushed back into the caliper. That's where your compression tool comes in. This one is normally used for a dual piston, but you can still use it on a single one. Just stick it on one of the ears and get it on there. What I like to do is straighten out this line so the fluid will go in easier. And then you just squeeze it until it goes in. Go really slow. That way you don't force too much fluid back through it. I know some people say take the bleeder screw loose, but I've been doing it like this for years and never had any problems. Probably will before it's over, but as of right now, you just push it in there, real smooth and slow. Once it gets in where you can't go any further, I grab my hammer and pop the end. And now, you have everything apart. What you do next is you get a new rotor, a screwdriver to open it, and brake clean to clean it. And why do you do this? When they package these things, they put oil on them so they don't rust. So what you're doing is you're just getting the oil off of them to be able to put back on the car. So now that the rotor is clean, you want to put it back on the car. I'm going to show you a little trick. Take one of your lug nuts, screw it on the stud. What that does is it holds the rotor in place so it don't move. Alright, so next step is to take, because we're not replacing the caliper, we're just replacing the brakes and the rotors. You want to take these slides out and grease them. Alright, take this one out. Oh, I always make sure I take them out and put them back in, because this one, as you can see, don't have any rubber on it, if you can see it. And then this one, oh my gosh, come on! And this one has a piece of rubber on the end. So that's why I always clean and lube them up one at a time. Back in there, make sure you push it and the rubber is sealed around it. Then you want to take the other one out, do the same process. I ain't never put too much, so don't have to be stingy. Then you stick it back. Stick it back in the hole like so. Push it down in there. Make sure it seals. Move it around a little bit. Now you're ready to install this. I always try to start the bottom one, because most of the time it's easier to start the bottom one. Let's get started. Then grab the top bolt, put the top one back in. Here's another hint. Make sure you got all the bolts started before you go to tighten it down. That way you can still have wiggle room in case you got to move it to line it up. So take the 17, the bottom, tighten it up. I like to hit it a few times with a hammer just to tighten it up a little bit. Do the same thing to the top. Hit it a few times with a hammer. So now you have the caliper bracket reinstalled. So since we got gold pads, they come with new hardware. So you want to take the old hardware off. Sometimes they can be a pain. Alright, so now we've got the old hardware off. We'll replace it with the new hardware. So you just line up the old hardware, push it down in this place. You might have to use the hammer, tap it over to get it even. They did. There is two types of hardware on here. Sometimes you got to watch out for that. There we go. Now, like I said, get your little hammer. Just want to make sure the hardware is not hitting the rotor when it turns, or you'll have a squeaking racket. Now, grab the pads. Alright, so the pads are kind of different. You have one with the squiller and one without the squiller. Normally the one with the squiller goes in the back, and the one without the squiller goes in the front. Just make sure they're all put in together like that. Then grab the caliper, slide it back on there. Okay. Take the caliper bolts. Start the top one. Take the bottom one. Get the bottom one started. Take your 12mm and tighten it up. These just have to be hand tight. We don't have to go too tight with these. And there you go. Now you can, don't forget to take your stud off the lug nut so you can put the wheel back on. And now what you do is you turn the wheel so you can get this, so that side is out like this. And now you just replace everything, put everything back on the other side, and the front brakes are done. So I went ahead and I cleaned the rotor off camera. Screw this in here so it won't move. Alright. I've already pushed the piston back. I've already lubed the slides off camera. So now I'm just going to put everything back together now. There you go. Everything put back together on the passenger side front. So as we move back to the back of the car, these calipers are different beasts on themselves. They're not like the front. So for some odd reason, this bolt normally is the same size as the front. Well, this one is not a 12, it's a 14. So obviously somebody has either changed calipers or they've had to order new bolts or slides for the back. So let's go ahead and get it taken off. Use a hammer to knock it loose. Just love taps. You ain't got to beat it too hard. Same way with the bottom. There we go. So on the back, I'm not taking the rotor off. I'm just replacing the brakes. And it's hard to see, but it's turning on me. The slide is turning on the bolt. I want to get me something to be able to hold that so it don't turn. I have a 17 here, which will hold it. So stick this on the bottom and then hold the caliper slide. and take your screw out, or take your bolt out. Like I said, this, you can definitely tell that somebody else has replaced these because they're hard to get out. But you run in that from time to time. The top just screw up with your finger. Alright. So you take this off, which is being a pain in the butt. Sometimes these are a pain in the butt to get off. Alright. Okay. Sometimes you might have to grab a screwdriver and kind of pop them out like that. So now, the reason why I say these are a little different here is it's hard for y'all to see, but see if I can get y'all in here. You have to have a special tool to be able to screw that in, because you can't push it in like you do the front. So when I have the tool here, you can buy it off of Amazon. I gave, I think, 60 bucks for it off Amazon. But what you have to do is you have to physically screw and push it in at the same time. So see all these ones here, it's got the little holes in it, the pin sticking up there. So what you'll do is you will slide y'all back around here. You'll try to find one that you can see, that cross right there. Find one that'll fit that cross. The two little nipples right there. You got to find out which one that you can stick on there that will fit in that cross without moving. That one look like that'll work. So what you do is drop it on the ground. You grab this thing. You grab this piece. You slide it over through here like this. Now here's the part where I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not. That's kind of magnetic, so it's kind of stuck there. Maybe, maybe not. All right, so what you do is you have to, it's really hard to see. I don't know if y'all can see this or not. So, I don't know if I can see it. It's going to be very difficult to be able to see this on where it's at. And I ain't got no better light. So what you do is you have to, and they don't give you a lot of room wire-wise or hose-wise either. So what you want to do is you want to try to line it up with, I'll try this one-handed here. I'm going to try to line this up, them two dabs, with that cross, like this right here. Okay. Then you want to take your tool, make sure it's screwed all the way in, and you want to line these two holes, if you can see it. Anyway, there's two dabs on here that you got to line up with those two holes. That's the hard part. That's just the hard part. It's gonna already fail. All right, guys, I'm gonna have to move y'all for a minute because I got to get in here and get this. So I'm gonna set y'all back. There we go. I got a small one. It went in there perfect, so we'll use the small one. Finally, I got her hooked up now. So what you do is so hold see my light's about to go dead. So what you do is you line that up, and what it is when you turn, it pushes in at the same time as it turns. So you want to turn about one round, and then you want to screw this out. And sometimes they can be a pain to turn. Turn. Then you got to keep screwing this out so you got pressure. This is a little bit harder than most of them, but it's going. Turn and keep twisting that. There we go. About a half a turn. You just twist it until you can't twist it no more, which means it's all the way in. And you screw this like this, and you take it off. Let's take the brakes out. See? Squillers on the back for this one. That was close needing rotors on the back. I can only get the cheap pads for the back, so I have to leave this hardware on here. So just like the front. Alright, so just like before. Take the slides out. Clean all the old stuff off of them. Clean all the old stuff off of them. And put the new. Remember to one at a time, that way you know where they come from. And see how much easier that slides. I'll get the bottom one. Be careful not to rip the boot. Sometimes you may have to get a screwdriver and pry it a little bit. You go, come on, yep, almost there. All right. What that boot does is that keeps from the road grime and water getting up in there and ruining making it rust so it won't slide. Some orange goop on it here. Or purple goop, I should say, not orange. Stick it back in here. That's why you make sure they reseal. One pad without the squiller and one pad with the squiller. Okay. Now let's see if I got that screwed in far enough. So to put the brakes back on, and no, I have not. That is not far enough. So now for the second thing, we'll try to get that pushed back in there. So I've learned sometimes you can take the press here, the caliper press, and maybe push it in a little bit so I can turn it some more. Let's see what happens. It's just, I'm telling you, they don't leave you no room to work on these little Hondas at all. So let's see here. See if I can. Sometimes you might have to put it in there. Okay. And then other times, when you're doing brake jobs, never promise the customer you'll have it done at a certain time, because every time you do, that's when you run into problems. I try my best not to tell a customer that I'll have it done at a certain time. All right. So now let's screw this out. So I'm going to turn it backwards to see if I can get it to turn it off. See, sometimes you just... All right, now, so let's see here. gonna have to see if I can. It ain't enough. It ain't enough. It ain't moving. That's the bad part. This may not be no good. See, I can't get it to turn it off. Either way. This part just sucks. Yep, they don't move at all. Don't move at all. That's the bad part. I have no idea why it won't move at all either. So what we're going to do is we're going to stomp on this side and we're going to go to the other side and come back to this one and get the other side done. So we've moved over here to the other side to see if it's going to do any better. The last side was a 14 millimeter. This side is it goes back down to the 12 millimeter like the front was. Okay, see? And this is the part that see? All of them ain't as easy as YouTube looks on like it is. This one's going to be a tough one. Have to use 17 millimeter wrench to hold them from turning. Get in here. And these calipers are a little different than most. These calipers have the parking brake built in to the regular brake. So basically, this caliper does both. Alright, so we'll do this and this. Alright, pull this out. There we go. Alright. Let's get the old brakes off. Old brake shoes are off. Pretty smooth rotor. Now, let's see if I can screw this one in. If you can see that any better. So, same one I used on the other side. The other one. Turn. Okay. Alright, turn. Then you gotta pull this out. Yep, it's a two-wedge process. You turn, pushes it in. It's hard to turn it. And then you gotta turn it in. This part pulls this back to make it tight again. Okay, there we go. It's a big turn. Gotta run it back up. Yes, these back brakes take a little bit longer than the front. Okay. Turn, tighten, turn. Okay, that's as far as that will go too. Let me see here. Either I've got the wrong brakes or I've got a major issue. The old brake job you see on YouTube ain't as easy. Alright, that's tight. Now let's see if I turn it anymore. There we go. Turn. There we go. It turned. Tighten this up. There we go. Turn. Turn. I know y'all can't see it, but it turned. There it goes. Alright, now it's tight. Now that's how that's supposed to look. So like the other side, get the slides out. Start ripping the boot. Wipe them off. Take the purple stuff. Put a good layer on it. Make sure it's sealed. Bottom one out. Like I said, do them one at a time, so you know where you got them from. Some more purple goop on it. Lubrication. Alright. Take it back down in the hole. Make sure it seals. Turn it a few times. Alright. Yeah. Just like on that side, I had to get the less expensive pads because it didn't have the expensive ones. Like I said, put the pad there. The one with the squiller goes on the back side, on the bottom, 95% of the time. All right. Now we can take the caliper and stick it back on there, like so. Nice. Okay, take the top bolt and get it started. Then we'll take the bottom bolt and get it started. And we'll have to hold it with the 17 while we screw it in. Like I said, don't tighten them all the way up, just in case. All right, get the bottom. Just like the front, you snug it. And then you go back up to the top and you snug it too. All right. Now, this side is done. All right. I finally got this back on here. I couldn't get that to screw in anymore. So what I ended up having to do is get somebody in the car. I don't advise this, but it worked. They pushed the brake pedal down until the piston come out about halfway. Then I would screw it back in and it would stop. So then she would do it again and I'd screw it back in and stop. We've done it about 4 times, and then finally that last time, I guess there's a bunch of rust in it, it finally was able to screw all the way in, and I got her to lock into place enough that I can get the pads put back on there. So now all things left is to put the wheels and tires on it and give her a test drive. Alright, now that the tires are on there, you want to make sure, put the cap back on the brake reservoir. And I'm going to do something a little different than most people. I got somebody in the car and I'm going to have them to pump the brakes, and I'm going to try to turn the wheels to make sure that they're going to stop and start. That's how you do front brakes and rotors and rear brakes on a 2007 Honda Accord. As you can see, the back brakes are different than the front. It takes a little bit more knowledge to know how to do those. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, I will be taking this thing for a test drive, and if there's any issues, I will be bringing it back. So anyway, thank you for watching this video, and until next time, bye now.